Today's theme is the preservation of Iman. How can we ensure that our faith is strong, unshaken? How can we ensure steadfastness? وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Worship your Lord until you are struck by death, until death comes to you. Yaqeen means something which is absolute and definite. And it's one of the words used in the Quran for death, because death is certain. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. Every soul is to taste death. ثُمَّ تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Then you will be given in full your rewards on the day of Qiyamah. For the good actions you've done, for the sins that have been committed and not been forgiven, everything will be recompensed. So, how do we preserve our Iman? How do we ensure we don't lose it on the way to our ultimate destination, towards the hereafter? What can we do to strengthen it? Well, one of the factors which weaken it, if we look at it from the other side, flip the coin. One of the things which weaken Iman is a major sin. What is a major sin? From a deeper point, if we look at this from a deeper point of view, shall we go deeper into this? We look at this from another point of view. The shuyukh say that any sin should be considered major, because when you consider minor sins insignificant, then they can become major sins. And they are certainly a stepping stone towards major sins. Never underestimate the significance of avoiding even the minor sins. Nevertheless, some sins have been specifically mentioned as major. And I just want to literally count them off my fingers. One of them is shirk, associating partners with Allah. We need to understand that we have committed ourselves as servants and slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abdullah, Abdul Rahman, Aisha, Fatima, you are the ibad and the ima, the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have given ourselves up. Inna Allah ashtara min al-mu'minina amwalahum wa anfusahum bi anna lahumul jannah. The believers have made an exchange, their lives and their wealth, in return for Jannah. This exchange is with Allah. So we have given up our discretions. Our lives are, yes, literally, our choices, our discretions are based on the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His commands and His rulings and guidance, which came to us through His Anbiya, through Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, through the Quran. So the first is avoiding shirk, steadfastness on tawheed. Then, in no particular order, I just want to quickly run through a few others. One of the major sins is uququl ummahat. It's disobeying your parents. This is when it becomes offensive. When you become offensive, oppressive towards your parents. No matter what happens between you and your parents, you're not perfect and your parents aren't perfect, but they deserve your compassion and love. You have no right to shout at them, ever. You have no right to shout at your parents. You have no right to swear at your parents. You have no right to abuse your parents. This is a major sin, and it's a very serious one. Then zina, sins of the flesh. The sun comes out and people's clothes come off. You need to watch what you're looking at. Your eyes and heart shouldn't wander. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. Allah Ta'ala is watching the cheating of the eyes and what the hearts disclose. What you do in public and what you do in private. What you watch on the street and what you watch online is all before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is an open book before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So zina, and these actions I'm referring to, the eyes, this is the first step towards zina. So sins of the flesh. Intoxication, shurbul khamr, be it wine or any other intoxicant. In Islam, intoxicants are haram. Don't even consider the option. Don't even consider the option. Neither buying, nor selling, nor consuming. And if you have slipped already, then start coming back. Tubu ilallahi tawbatan nasuha. Stealing, theft. And theft is to take something discreetly from a safe place. Doesn't mean that you can commit daylight robbery. Robbery is a sin which is even worse, but it's a separate sin. But theft can take other forms. So for example, hacking into someone's account and taking their funds from their account fraud, these are all forms of the same thing. Taking other people's possessions. So theft is another one. Then I'm going to mention this one in particular, qatl, murder. It's shocking to see how cheap human life has become. And so many young people walk around with knives these days, and adults as well. We shouldn't need to. And you should never even consider this. It's not an option where you get into a bout with somebody, you have an argument, you have a punch-up, and then the knives come out, the blades come out. This shouldn't be happening on our streets. Everybody has a responsibility, the young and the old. And the older members of our community should explain to the younger ones, be they your friends or your siblings, your family members, qatl is a serious crime in Islam, it's a major sin. So we've mentioned shirk, we mentioned parents, we mentioned zina, we mentioned stealing, and we've mentioned intoxication, we mentioned qatl, and then false testimony, shahadatul zur, giving false evidence is a major sin. And also, taking a false oath is a major sin. And finally, I'll just finish with this one. It's a long list, but I'm mentioning some particularly important ones. To accuse an innocent woman of having had an affair is a major sin in Islam. To the extent that ye kabira gunah hai, it's a major sin. If you see two people together, hand in hand, no apparent relationship, walking into a room, you can't say anything. If you do so, you'll become sinful, it'll be written in your records, and you'll have to answer for it on the day of Qiyamah. If you don't believe me, read the translation and tafsir of Surah An-Nur. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq to understand.